Welcome. This is Tyler Woods. I am the author of 11th Hour Preparedness. And during this time of quarantine, I'm reading to you one of my books. This is the second edition of 11th Hour Preparedness, and it's a book about making choices while we can. This is a time when we can think pretty well. This is a good wake-up call for so many who never really saw the need to prepare before, but sure wish they had a pile of toilet paper. We are in a time where it could very easily bring us to shortages of food. We already see shortages of toilet paper, but with it have come scarcity of bread products and eggs, and this could extrapolate and become a very big problem. On top of that, it's affecting people's income. There's a lot of businesses that are going to go out of business because they couldn't survive the economic hit from this quarantine. And there are a lot of people that aren't getting paid because they're not at work. They get paid by the hour, not by not in a salary situation. So the things of 11th hour preparedness really do make good sense here and do apply. This is the second reading. We're going to read, they're not written in chapter numbers, but this is the second chapter, and it's covering natural disasters. And we will probably get through a second one as well. So we will continue. Let me switch here to the camera first so you can suffer through my face. There you are. Now, let's begin reading. The Pacific Northwest is expecting a massive earthquake from the two geological plates beneath them. These tectonic plates have been jammed for decades and building energy as they literally elevate a mountain range. When it lets go, there aren't many buildings expected to remain standing. Hurricane Sandy demonstrated once again that we can't depend on our local grocery store for food supply. Ahead of almost any storm, grocery shelves are stripped clean, gas stations are pumped dry, and those who don't prepare are just out of luck. It might be inconvenient to rely on food from the pantry for a few days, but in the face of prolonged failure of the system, it could grow more serious. As was the case for victims of Hurricane Sandy, waiting for FEMA to come to the rescue is a bad idea. Acts of nature can come suddenly, like the earthquakes in Haiti, Chile, and Japan. I was in grade school when the earthquake centered in Anchorage, Alaska, made headlines in 1964. That was big news since major earthquakes didn't happen that often. Today, recent quakes have been so large as to dwarf the Anchorage quake by comparison. Tornadoes ripped across our American South in 2011 and astounded climatologists for their magnitude and number. Tornadoes are measured by the damage they cause and are expressed in terms of EF scale. An EF5 tornado is the most destructive, and America experiences an average of one of these monsters each year, and sometimes none at all, or sometimes none in a given year. Fortunately, these storms typically maintain ground contact for only minutes at a time. Storms that ripped across Alabama and Mississippi in 2011 included 5 or more EF5 tornadoes with extended continuous ground contact. One EF5 tornado continued ground contact for over 120 miles. This has never been observed in the history of meteorological science. If you are not fully convinced that at least one of these threats is likely to happen, the rest of this book may not be for you. For those who see the danger and wish to prepare their family to refuse to become victims, this book is for you. EMP. Peter Vincent Pry of Impact America was interviewed on Fox News and shared how vulnerable our nation is to EMP attack. His report is validated by the Federal EMP Commission and Strategic Posture Commission. as well as other federal sources. The concern is that Iran, in particular, has been developing both nuclear weapons and missile delivery technologies. They could soon deliver a sufficient sized nuclear device from a shipboard launched intermediate range ballistic missile and inflict irreparable damage to our nation. They have documented their desire to accomplish this, and they are making gains in the steps to accomplish it. The U.S. has no viable means to prevent such an attack that could be launched from hundreds of miles off our coast. Other acts of terror have been discovered that range from cyber attacks on our information systems to firing on civilians by lone gunmen. Nothing is sacred and nothing is beyond a terrorist's will to instill fear. Here is a recent article by Michael Maloof that explains our vulnerable position. Title of the article is Think EMP Attack Would Only Cut Power? Evidence shows explosions. Fires would be a prelude to catastrophe. F. Michael Maloof, staff writer for WND and G2 Bulletin, is a former senior security policy analyst in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. You've seen the warnings about an EMP attack, how it would shut down electronics so you couldn't manage your bank account, fill your car with gas, or go through the fast lane at the grocery store. But you're prepared. After all, you bought a generator, have a couple cans of gasoline, a few weeks worth of food, and a plan to make sure your family is safe. But what would you do when the explosions start? Yes, explosions. As in the 1980s eruption of flames from a 36-inch natural gas pipeline in the Netherlands, the Bellingham, Washington blaze in the 1990s when 250,000 gallons of gas leaked into Hannah and Whatcom creeks and ignited, or the New Mexico blaze that killed 12 and left an 86-foot-long crater in the ground. That danger would be very present should an electromagnetic pulse event or attack strike, according to experts on the issue. In fact, a 2008 report from the nation's EMP Commission specifically cited concerns about the supervisory control and data acquisition, or SCADA, systems that control large sections of American industry and commerce. In the 1980s, there was a large explosion at a 36-inch natural gas pipeline in the Netherlands. A SCADA system about a mile from the naval port of Den Helder had been affected by a naval radar system when the radio frequency from the radar caused the SCADA system to open and close a large gas flow control valve at the radar scan frequency, resulting in pressure waves that traveled down the pipeline and eventually caused the pipe to explode. Then in Bellingham in the late 1990s, there was a similar event in which a SCADA malfunction caused a gasoline pipeline to rupture and explode. Some 250,000 gallons of gasoline from the pipeline entered the Hannah and Whatcom creeks. The fuel in the water ignited, killing 3 people and injuring 8 others. The explosions also collapsed the banks of the creek and destroyed over a 1.5-mile section, damaging many buildings near the creek. Among the causes was the determination there were SCADA system discrepancies. In August 2000, a pipeline exploded near Carlsbad, New Mexico. It was operated by the El Paso Natural Gas Company. The pipelines supplied electric utilities in Arizona and Southern California. As a result of the explosion, 12 people, including 5 children, were killed. The explosion, which left an 86-foot-long crater, occurred due to maintenance failures caused by an EMP event. A 2008 EMP Commission report had forecast the troubles. The EMP Commission called them the ubiquitous robots of the modern age and said the SCADA was important due to the interdependence of the systems and consequently new vulnerabilities. But the report also cited technologies that have facilitated this growing interdependence, since they are common across the many individual infrastructures. The EMP Commission pointed out that control systems and mutual interdependence are two of the most important aspects of modern infrastructures that pose the greatest vulnerability in all of the country's infrastructures. While conferring economic benefit and enormous new operational agility, the growing dependence of our infrastructures on these omnipresent control systems represents a new vector of vulnerability in the evolving digital age of the 21st century, such as cybersecurity, the Commission said. SCADAs are major electronic control systems that are used for data acquisition and control over large critical infrastructures that are distributed over large geographical areas. SCADA systems are especially used in such critical infrastructure applications as electrical transmission or distribution, water management, and oil and gas pipelines. In this connection, the San Diego County Water Authority and San Diego Gas and Electric Companies in November '99 experienced a severe electromagnetic interference to their SCADA wireless networks. Both companies were unable to operate critical valve openings and closings under remote control of their SCADA electronic systems. The episode prompted technicians to go to remote locations to manually open and close the water and gas valves. If that had not been done, there was the potential for catastrophic failure of their water system. According to the letter of complaint at the time by San Diego County Water Authority to the Federal Communications Commission, the danger was that some 825 million gallons of water flowing daily would have been released by a ruptured line, causing severe flooding and serious damage and destruction to property. What was the source of this SCADA failure? It was determined after investigation that it was caused by the radar of a ship some 25 miles off the coast of San Diego. A SCADA system, often in a remote area, automatically and remotely monitors the operations of such critical systems as utilities and telecommunications. The reporting must be ongoing on the system's performance, such as voltage or current developed in an electrical power plant and the power delivered by regional electrical systems. For gas companies, the SCADA systems record the flow volume in a gas pipeline. SCADA systems also are critical to measuring the temperature in a nuclear power plant and sending an alarm when it exceeds normal operating conditions. The SCADA system oversees the entire operation of a system by making adjustments where necessary. If an electrical generating plant, for example, fails due to the loss of critical hardware, of a critical hardware component or industrial accident, the SCADA will detect the loss and issue an alert. In turn, the SCADA will issue commands to other generating plants under its control to increase power output to make up for the loss. All of these actions occur automatically, within seconds, and without human involvement. This all leaves America susceptible to catastrophe should things go wrong. An EMP event, whether natural or man-made, would cause unprecedented cascading failures of major infrastructure, according to William Graham, head of the commission that issued the 2008 EMP report. In that event, a regional or national recovery would be long and difficult and would seriously degrade the safety and overall viability of our nation, Graham said. The primary avenues for catastrophic damage to the nation are through our electric power infrastructure and thence into our telecommunications, energy, transportation, and other infrastructures, Graham said. These in turn can seriously impact our important aspects of our nation's life, including the financial systems, means of getting food, water, and medical care to the citizenry, trade, and production of goods and services, he said. The recovery of any one of the key national infrastructures is dependent upon the recovery of others, Graham said. The longer the outage, the more problematic and uncertain the recovery will be. It is possible for the functional outages to become mutually reinforcing until at some point the degradation of infrastructure could have irreversible effects on the country's ability to support its population. EMP events, of course, could include major flares from the sun in the natural course of events, or a nuclear explosion at altitude above the United States should it be attacked by an enemy. The small example of the damage already can be seen in various parts of the country hit by snowstorms or flooding. Superstorm Sandy's impact on the northeast part of the U.S. is still being felt, with regions without power months after the fact. And the EMP Commission tested its concerns. Based on the testing and analysis, we estimate that a significant fraction of all remote control systems within the EMP affected area will experience some type of impact, the Commission report said. It added that even minor effects could significantly affect the processes and equipment being controlled. Even with the limited testing, the EMP Commission concluded, the report said the impact will be far greater from a real EMP attack. It's not one or a few SCADA systems that would be malfunctioning, but large numbers, hundreds, even thousands, with some fraction of those rendered permanently inoperable until replaced or physically repaired, the EMP Commission report said. In 1994, a severe thunderstorm passed over the Pembroke refinery in the United Kingdom. There were lightning strikes which resulted in a 43-second power loss and subsequent power dips through the refinery. In turn, numerous pumps and coolers tripped. An explosion then occurred, resulting in a number of isolated fires. The explosion was determined to have been caused by flammable hydrocarbon liquid continuously being pumped into a process vessel. Because of a valve malfunction, the outlet closed. The control valve had shut when the control system indicated that it was open. The malfunctioning process control system did not allow the refinery operations to contain the situation. The report said as a result of this incident, an estimated 10% of the total refining capacity of the United Kingdom was lost until this complex was returned to service. It is safe to say that no one has planned for, and few have even imagined, a scenario with the loss of hundreds or even thousands of nodes across all of the critical national infrastructures, all simultaneously, the EMP Commission report said. That, however, is precisely the circumstance contemplated by an EMP attack scenario. The problems that result means other systems or networks would collapse because the first failed. The problem became apparent in 1991 when a single point of failure inside a telecommunications system of serving a single fiber optic cable in the New York City region blocked out 60% of all calls into and out of New York. It also disabled all air traffic control functions between Washington, D.C. and Boston, Massachusetts. Said to be the busiest flight corridor in the nation, the outage also halted operations of the New York Mercantile Exchange. These key interdependencies were always there, the EMP Commission report said, but they were not recognized as warranting advanced contingency planning, situational awareness in degraded conditions, and operational workaround. Note, recent changes in our federal government lend evidence that trouble is coming. 70 federal agencies now have armed enforcement units with weapons and armament provided through the Department of Defense. Few of these agencies have ever required armament in the past, and it paints a chilling message that they feel the need today. Here's a quote: an EMP event, whether natural or man-made, would cause unprecedented cascading failures of major infrastructures. What it takes to survive. The elite unit of British Army called the Special Air Service, SAS, teaches their men that the ability to survive is based on three elements: Those elements are displayed in a pyramid divided into 3 layers. The foundation and most important layer is the will to survive. When serving in the United States Air Force during Vietnam, our training covered aspects of survival. I recall a story demonstrating the importance of the will to live that stuck with me. An American pilot had to ditch his plane deep into a desert when his fighter jet flamed out. His radio had failed and no one knew where he had gone down. Search was without success and the pilot was given up for dead. I might add, this was during World War II. The event that we're talking about was during World War II. The pilot, on the other hand, was not so inclined to give up on himself. Knowing that his location was unknown to his searchers, he began walking out in the direction he knew led to his base. After 3 days of walking without water, the pilot was found. He had multiple cuts and superficial wounds that did not bleed until after he was given water. Due to dehydration, his blood had become too thick for his wounds to bleed. There was no explanation for how that pilot lived except for his determination not to die. The will to live can be the single most powerful element to survival. The second layer of the pyramid is labeled knowledge. Knowledge instills confidence and dispels fear. I was given our family station wagon when I was in high school. It was a good car, but the engine had a lot of miles on it. I set out to rebuild the engine. I had never rebuilt an engine before, but I had a basic understanding of how engines worked, and the auto parts store guided me in the necessary tasks. In a few weeks, the engine was rebuilt and running. Someone asked me how I found the confidence to tackle such a project. My answer was, I never thought it was something I shouldn't be able to do. I wonder how many of us have failed to begin projects because we lack confidence, even though we had basic knowledge and the necessary tools. The final layer on the pyramid is called training. Training is the exercise of skills to reach mastery, then maintaining those skills in readiness. I have watched martial artists perform mock combat, and it looks like a blur of hands and feet. I've often wondered how they blend so many complicated moves into blinding, fast, and fluid motion. Another mystery for me was to watch a pianist play a fast and complex movement. How do they get their fingers to move so quickly, with each hand working independently? The answer to both questions is the same. The martial artist's actions, as well as the pianist's, are practiced slowly and deliberately with attention to proper form and execution. As the routines are learned, the artist gains speed and fluid motion. Their body learns the moves in what is called muscle memory. This allows them to execute complex actions very quickly without having to think about each movement. Practice, drill, and repetition will allow you to do the right thing almost automatically. It's called training. If we were to put a cap on our pyramid, it would be labeled survival kit. A basic survival kit would contain tools to use in applying our will to live, knowledge, and training. That kit is your bug out backpack and should contain essential tools to allow you to survive: food, water, clothing, knife, rope, shelter, fire-making devices, and a first aid kit. Your kit will mature as you learn more survival skills and acquire training to apply them. And the quote we will close with is, "The will to live can be the single most powerful element to survival." Thank you for listening. I hope this has been a profitable time, and I hope this book makes an impact. It is available on Amazon. You can just search on the 11th Hour Preparedness by Tyler Woods, and it's there if you want to buy a copy. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us.